Hello and welcome to this episode of the Cold Start Corner Experts Edition, where I'm sitting down with Dr. Allie Markowski, founder and proprietor of Conneticut Vision Associates in Suffield, Connecticut. And Dr. Markowski is joining us today to specifically talk about how she grew a specialty practice in her Cold Start. So, Dr. Markowski, thank you so much for joining us here at the Cold Start Corner.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So let's go ahead and take us back to kind of where it all started for you as far as just, discovering your vision to Cold Start. And maybe even prior to that, where you went to school, kind of what your vision was for your career and how you came to Cold Starting your practice.
Yeah. So I grew up in Suffield. I knew I always wanted to practice in my hometown. I fell in love with optometry, and so I went to NECO. I graduated in 2013, and then I had the opportunity to work for a private practice in my hometown, which was an amazing opportunity. I definitely thought it was going to be a buy-in opportunity, but in the 7 years that I was working there, as I was going to purchase the practice, a private equity definitely had a lot more money that they were willing to spend on the practice than I was. And so I had that decision to make of, do I kind of stay in the corporate world or do I kind of follow my dreams and kind of start my own thing? So it was a little bit more of like a fear factor. I was like kind of pushed to it, but thank God it turned out to be like the best thing ever. And so I opened my practice. I actually saw my first patient in my practice on January 16th of 2020. We're coming up on my 3-year anniversary.
That is awesome.
Yeah. So, and it's amazing. Like my 5-year plan has been accomplished in 3 years. So,
wow,
it's really cool.
Yes. Congratulations. And that in itself is so exciting to hear, right? I mean, before we even jump into talking about how you've grown the specialty in your practice, that's just incredibly exciting to hear and inspiring for truly for thousands upon thousands of doctors across the country. So, okay. So tell us a little bit about the scope of care, right? About the scope of care. So you had this vision that you really wanted to, that's where your heart was. Tell us about that vision and the scope of care that you had.
So the whole reason that I really liked optometry, so background, my dad is a dentist. I wanted to do something in the medical profession. I am not a dentist because I like talking to people and I like having them talk back to me. Like that's, my dad loves one-way conversations. I prefer like talking back and forth. So found optometry. It's one of those things where if you look at statistics, an optometrist spends an average of 20 minutes with a patient, whereas like a PCP or a PA or something spends on average about 6 minutes. So it was really important for me to get into a profession where I had that one-on-one connection with my patients. And so everything was working out really well. And then the whole idea of kind of that private equity or that corporate setting really took away that personal connection that I was looking for. And so that was really my goal of opening my practice in my hometown. Is I wanted to be the community doctor that saw the families, and then I could also I could bump into them at the supermarket and be really proud of the work that I've done and support the baseball teams and the basketball teams, and when we're in a farm town. And so, if the farmers have something in your eye, like, come in, let me take it out. Like, I want to take the rest out of your eye. I want to be that doctor like that you come and see, and that can feel like that hero in the local community. So that's what I was really looking for. And so I've worn my heart on my sleeve in the practice, and I've just wanted people to feel cared for. And I think that's really why we've been as successful as we have been.
That's amazing. That is absolutely incredible. Okay. So obviously part of that has been growing this specialty in your practice, right? And I think a lot of folks think that you have to get established in primary care. You have to grow that base before investing in not only the investment, the financial investment, but also the investment of time and establishing operations to support a specialty. So tell us about how you came to implementing a specialty in your cold start. Was this in year one? Was this something more recently? Walk us through that.
Yeah, so I wanted to differentiate myself because I am 2 buildings away from my old practice. So it was one of those things where I really had to say why I was
Pump the brakes. You cold started 2 doors down.
I can see my
private equity that had high five. That is wow, rock star. Okay, we're gonna do a different cold start corner. Actually, we're gonna do that conversation, cold start corner live is what we're gonna do.
I'm really nice, but I'm also a little aggressive. So
then fist bumps on that. Okay, so moving along. Okay, so you open 2 doors down. You're wanting to provide a broader scope care, but so walk us through adding.
Yeah, so I wanted to be high-end medical. Like, it was one of those things where I wanted to start with all of the bells and whistles. I wanted that boutique optical. I wanted people to feel like they were walking into like a well-established practice. And so I did. I started with, all of, the regular equipment. I did have the OCT. I had the visual field, but no one's going to be talking to their neighbors and being like, oh my God, I just saw Dr. Markowski and she's the best visual field.
Yeah, right.
Nobody likes that. And so I've always really liked binocular vision and vision therapy, but I knew that in itself was going to be too draining because I couldn't focus on just that. I really wanted to focus on primary care. And so one thing that I immediately is I brought the neuro lens into my practice. So when
you say immediately, like where, how far in?
So I ordered it. I started in January and it was implemented March 10th. So, I had a month and a half under me before I had that in my practice. And that I just feel like it was this other specialty that I was able to have without changing the flow of my practice. Yes. But it treated a lot of the issues that patients were having. So I got it the 10th. I think the world shut down March 16th. So timing, right? But that's when everybody started having all of these visual issues because we were all on Zoom constantly. And so it ended up being kind of this blessing in disguise. We're now on the computer more. Everyone's having more issues. And instead of me being like, oh, 20-20-20 rule, I'm like, I have something that can help. And again, it hasn't changed the flow of my practice. It's a specialty that was very easy to incorporate. And it gets a lot of attention. All of my patients talk about it. That's my biggest way to grab new patients to my practice.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is absolutely fascinating. So, okay. So I think there's a couple of important key things that you toss out there. I think first and foremost is, it goes without saying, is embracing modern eye care.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And so yes, but I think the whole thing is that, I graduated in 2023. Like, our idea of modern or medical eye care is definitely standard of practice. Like, we're not older practices.
Sure.
So,
hang on, what year did you graduate? You said 23.
Oh, sorry, 2013.
2013. Okay. All right. Well, I figured. But wanted to clarify. Okay.
Yeah. No, 2013. But sure. So it was just like, I just think that, it's so great that our profession is just so much more elevated than where it has been, and just to be able to make that the standard of care versus, and it is a specialty. Like, we're not like the old guys that have like the creepy old practices. Like, we're doing much better. And so it's something to embrace, but it's crazy that like it's thought of as a specialty because it's just, we're practicing to our best capability possible, which is cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. I love that perspective. Because we need to look at that perspective also in the context of the public health need. And I think that's something also really important. And it's fascinating how everything worked out with the timing of how the pandemic struck. And then we all know, again, to your point, then we have this massive public need arise, and now you can provide the solution. So that's absolutely fascinating. So, okay, so from an operational standpoint, because now I think it's important to say, okay, I'm cold starting a practice, or I'm early on in my practice, and 10 o'clock local time at recording. I don't know if the mic was picking up the grandfather clock with all 10 of those.
I heard a little bit.
Okay. But I think it's I think it's fascinating also then to look at it from an operational standpoint. So how do you, and as a cold start, it was still very early on. So it's like, hey, y'all, we're going to start doing this. And it's like, okay, like you're not having to like retrain or what have you. So, but nonetheless, when you cold start a practice for a team, it's a small team. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot still figuring out. Even when you go up on hitting the ground running, there's still a lot figuring out. And here you are layering something else on top of that. So walk us through a little bit how you delivered that to the team and how you've structured operations. Walk us through the workflows and stuff.
So I think one thing that was fantastic is everything was definitely like a group decision. Like obviously, like, you know, I'm kind of the cheerleader that's the most excited about these things. But when I'm able to bring in technology, and I'm like, it's one of those things where it's easy to talk about the NeuroLens because that was kind of like the first thing that I brought in. All of my staff was getting headaches. You know, they would have to be calling out because of it. We were constantly passing around Advil like it was like vitamins. And so to have the presentation and be like, hey, there's a pair of glasses that can help to reduce all of these issues. Like my staff was like, I want that. Like, that's what I want.
Right.
So, you know, like it's kind of like you give them like a little taste of it and they're like, this is fantastic. So they were almost promoting more than I was, because when people would come in during the pre-testing or making an appointment and they were asking, you know, oh, is this just for your annual exam or are you having any issues? They were making sure like this person is getting headaches, this person's getting eye strain. Like they were really helping to kind of shift it from that like routine comprehensive eye exam to, hey, there's other issues that are going on that we actually have a treatment for. So we're listening to the problem and we're actually able to solve it, which is really cool.
Love it. Heck yes. Heck yes.
So yeah, my entire staff wears NeuroLens.
and you know, I think that's also that's a really good rule of thumb. Not only it applies to this, but many different facets of the practice, right? Because as the practice will grow and evolve, there may be different things, whether it's, you know, services, scope of care, diagnostics, whatever that get into there. But the importance of engaging the staff in that, whatever it may be, have them be users of the technology that you as the provider are there delivering, right?
And that's one of like my biggest, during like the interview process, like when I'm hiring somebody, I'm saying, you are a representation of me. Like you're going to be more of a touch person in the office than I am. They're going to see me once, but if they're calling, they're talking to you on the phone. When you come in, they're talking to you. Out, they're talking to you. Like those are the points of contact, and you need to be representing the best of this office the whole time because you're representing me. And
absolutely.
We only strive for excellence. And we do.
Absolutely.
We really do. Like, it's funny. We normally have like amazing days. Like they're so exciting. Like we see all these patients, like they're awesome. And the other day we had a full book. We had really great patients. No one complained. People bought glasses. And we're like, oh, that was just a really good day. It wasn't an awesome day. And we're like, oh my God, that's still really good. Like, our bad days are like great compared to what our bad days used to be. Like, yeah. And we just have to also like sit back and appreciate that sometimes.
Yes.
life is the flexibility that I have with my private practice, the patients that we have, what we're able to do to help them, like the staff is happy. Like I'm sad that I didn't open my practice earlier, but everything has timing to it. And I am just so grateful for how well things are going right now.
That is absolutely amazing to amazing to hear. And also, it's exciting. There's a lot of folks in your position, right? You're 3 years in.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah. You're coming up on 3 years as we're recording this, right? Coming up on 3 years. There's a ton of folks out there, right? Hitting like that 3 to 5 year mark. Hey, I'm 3 years in, I'm 5 years in. That's like, man, if I had actually, I suppose it's 2 regrets. Do you know what the 2 regrets are?
No.
1, I wish I had done this earlier. 2, I wish I had gotten a bigger space.
So
a little humor in there, a little humor, but also legit, straight up. I mean, and hey, how many listeners out there are 3 to 5 years in, and you're thinking like the same thing? Like, yeah, man, I wish I had the space for that extra lane, or to be able to have the. Is that where you're living now, Dr. Markowski?
So here's what's super awesome. So after 1
year,
living there. After 1 year in practice, the tenants next door moved out, and I was like, this is way too soon to expand. I don't need to expand yet, but build it and they will come. So I went from one exam lane of 1,200 square feet, like optical reception exam lane, 1,200 square feet. And then I knocked down walls, and now I have 3 exam lanes. So I'm like building into them. So I expanded way earlier than I needed to. But now, because I've already crushed my 5-year goal at 3 years, now I need a new 5-year goal. And that would not have happened if I didn't have the extra exam lanes. So sure. I'm so happy I was like ahead of that curve. And it's really cool how my mindset has changed, where I opened my practice out of fear because I didn't feel like I had any other options. And then that totally changed from fear to like opportunity, or like expansion, or like, let's see what else we can do.
Yes.
And that's a much better place to come from.
Love it. Love it. And is that where the abundant mindset, which
a million percent. My word for 2023 is abundance. It's one of those things where, you know, you can talk about success or goals or metrics, but abundance is not limited. And so it's one of those things where it can be for the office, but it can be for your life, and it can be for that work balance. And most of the time, we don't even know what we need. So let's not be limited. Let's just see what's out there. Just be ready for it.
Yes, absolutely. Awesome. And we should do a whole other episode just around
that. Yes.
In and of itself. But I tell you, this has been a really, really awesome conversation. About how you have grown an amazing specialty in your cold start, and how it's really served you incredibly well. So I guess as we kind of wrap up, if folks would like to just like get in touch with you or follow you, you're starting to get some publications here and there.
So I've done a few publications. I'm doing a little bit of speaking, which is really cool. I still have to figure out how to use LinkedIn, but I'm really good on Instagram.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Allie Markowski, thank you so much for joining us here on the Cold Start Corner, and good luck to you. Best wishes on having this abundant, not only year ahead, but this abundant future, right? And sharing that perspective. So
it's going to be limitless. It's great.
Absolutely. Awesome. Dr. Markowski, thanks so much. Everyone, thank you for tuning in. Find a lot of other really cool, great content like this at Akrinos.com and at the Cold Start Corner. On behalf of our team, Eric Matei signing off.